Welcome back. It is 6:44 right now. If you're just joining us, former President Donald Trump has won the White House.
Voters officially elected Trump president overnight with projected wins in key battleground states and a win in Wisconsin. The former president had already declared victory last night. He addressed his supporters alongside now Vice President-elect J.D. Vance.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
After the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
We did not hear from Vice President Kamala Harris last night. She is expected to address the nation later on this morning. Here's a live look right now at the electoral count map. You can see Trump has more than the required 270 electoral votes needed to secure election. He also has the popular vote. We're still waiting for some states, though, to be called. We are joined now by KOMO political analyst Ron Dotsauer. Ron, thank you so much for waking up with us this morning after you took just a bit of a nap overnight.
I've had a couple hours. We're good.
You're fueled by some caffeine. Let's dig right in here. You know, early this morning, former President Trump, of course, reaching that 270 threshold. The race declared for him, becoming president-elect. What is your take, first take this morning, now that he is officially president-elect, and main takeaway?
Now that I'm awake?
Sure.
Well, a couple of things. One, I was struck by the fact that this is his third shot at the, one win, 2 wins now, and a loss. But in the previous 2 efforts, he lost the popular vote and won the electoral vote. Yesterday, he won both, which is for the first time. I was a little struck by that. So how did that happen? Well, one of the things that happened that I think was a little bit of a surprise to most of the pundits was that he carried 3 critical states of Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. So he busted down the blue wall with those 3 states. The other somewhat ironic piece of all that is that he carried all 3 of those states by the same margin, 51-48, 3 points in all 3 of those states. So that was certainly the victory lap he gets to take because of those states, in my opinion. And then he continued his constituency as, the white males and not as well-educated voters, shall we say, right? And that group of voters and constituency turned out in very, very large numbers.
And Ron, this election making history for numerous reasons. What can we expect from Trump this time around?
I don't know that anybody really knows. I mean, it is going to be fascinating. We don't know exactly where he's going to go with the foreign policy, don't know where he's going to go. He's inheriting a pretty good economy. That's the other thing, because, inflation has been dropping. Job market is pretty robust. So he's coming in at a pretty good time. So the handoff in terms of the economic metrics is pretty good. So he's going to be able to ride that for a little while. I guess the other sort of closer watch that a lot of people are going to have is some of the things he was saying near the end of the campaign about using the military and some of these pretty kind of out there statements, if you will, to see if he executes on that, if he's going to, quote unquote, punish his enemies. So there's going to be a lot of watching to see if he executes on that. We'll all be, I think, interested to see how that unfolds in front of us.
Because he'll have a lot of the support that he wants to do that. We've seen Republicans line up directly behind him because he has a proven track record of at least winning when it comes to this presidential election.
Yes.
Let's bring it closer to home now. Take a look at Bob Ferguson now.
Yep.
The Democrat elected to be the next governor of Washington. What's your take on that and, this win over Dave Reichert?
Well, first off, the KOMO and S360, our poll numbers that we released a couple of weeks ago, hit every single race almost spot on in Washington State. The predictions of the wins, the ballot propositions, and the margins. So KOMO should take a bow because he put that all together. And so, it wasn't a surprise that he won. He's been leading pretty consistently. I think when this race first unfolded, there was an expectation this race was going to be a pretty close race. That Reichert was a very serious candidate, and he was, but he just got outspent. He kind of got out hustled, and frankly, ironically, Trump was an albatross because Harris actually outperformed Biden in Washington State last night. She won, had a 20-point margin. Biden had a 16-point margin win in Washington State. So Trump was not his friend in Washington State for sure. So all of that combined brought in, another Democratic governor. It's been since 1980 since we elected a Republican governor in Washington State. And it's going to be at least another 4 years before that can happen again. We'll see.
Voters made decisions on 4 pretty big initiatives. What were your thoughts on those and the results we're seeing for those this morning?
Yeah, again, no surprises in terms of where they end up getting it. The no campaign, particularly in 2117, the massive amount of money. I mean, you couldn't turn on your television, your radio station, your cell phone without hearing some no spot of some kind or another. The folks really stepped up and wrote some big checks. And, I think they spent, when the dust settles, maybe $15, $17 million to get to know. And money matters in campaigns. It just does. But then you still have to execute, and they did a nice job of executing.
Yeah, well, fascinating. There is lots to watch, of course, and plenty more analysis to happen, I think, in both parties, especially on the federal level. So it'll be fascinating to watch. We're so glad to have your first take this morning, too.
Good to be here.
Ron, thank you.
Let's go.
Former President Donald Trump will soon return for 4 more years.
Early this morning, the now president-elect secured the 270 electoral votes needed to beat Vice President Kamala Harris, with the battleground state of Wisconsin pushing him over the edge. Trump had already declared victory last night in Florida, telling his supporters he plans to, quote, usher in a golden age of America. After surviving 2 assassination attempts this year, he said God spared his life for a reason: to save our country and restore America to greatness.
We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly.
Vice President Kamala Harris expected to address her supporters sometime today. Last night, her campaign co-chair said they continue to fight until every vote is counted, and that every voice has spoken.
All right, we are also tracking strong local reaction from voters on both sides of the election results that are coming in this morning.
Many people waking up and learning Donald Trump has declared president-elect early this morning. Kamos Theron's on live at SeaTac Airport talking to people traveling this morning, asking them what they are thinking this morning. Theron?
Yeah, what's very interesting is when we talk to voters about the election in general, they don't mention the governor's race, they don't mention Congress, they go right to the presidential race. And what we've noticed as we talk to people, whether they support Vice President Kamala Harris or now President-elect Trump, all of the voters we spoke to feel like they know Trump, the candidate, very well, just have very different opinions. And so we're hearing a lot of different things as we talk to people about what they're thinking this morning.
I didn't vote.
So what are you thinking this morning?
Well, I know a lot of people are very excited, and I also know a lot of people are not so excited. I don't know, I'm kind of nervous. I guess we'll see what happens the next couple weeks. And
I'm glad that Trump won. Yeah, I think America spoke.
You surprised by the results? I mean, he's ahead in the popular vote and in the Electoral College.
Yeah, that means he has a mandate.
I think we should all, just try to remain calm, respect each other's opinions, not try to get into any contentious arguments, because it's not going to do anything. Especially our children, they're well informed of what's going on with the political process.
Now, of course, a lot of these folks, they were up late watching the election results come in. Again, President-elect Trump declared this morning before 3 a.m. So that a lot of the people out here at the airport learning as they get up to travel what the results were. Another interesting fact here that we're sort of getting from, or the response, the vibe we're getting from people out here this morning. When you talk to people who are supporting Vice President Kamala Harris, very, very surprised about the results of the election. But when we talk to Donald Trump supporters, a lot of them have a very quiet sort of assuredness that they knew it was going to end up this way.
Yeah, really a lot of mixed reaction. Like what that last woman said about respecting each other. I think that's key, especially because our children are watching. Theron, thank you. The markets on Wall Street surging right now ahead of the opening bell, and that'll ring in less than 30 minutes from now.
That's right, Steve, tracking the pre-market from the live desk and new reaction from political leaders.
Yeah, lots of it coming in this morning, Kelly, and we're going to see if this number holds this morning. But look at what we're seeing in the green this morning. Stocks are posed for a booming rally once that new day of trading begins at 6:30 this morning. Right now, Dow futures are up more than 1,200 points ahead of the opening bell. That's about 3% in terms of a rise. Also new this morning and new this hour, new reaction in the last 30 minutes from several political leaders after Trump's win. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying this on X: the friendship between Canada and the U.S. is the envy of the world. I know President Trump and I will work together to create more opportunity, prosperity, and security for both of our nations. Also this morning, former Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney, a Republican who endorsed Kamala Harris, saying this, quote, "Citizens across this country, our courts, members of the press, and those serving in our federal, state, and local governments must now be the guardrails of democracy." Also new this hour, a first look at the new cover of Time magazine. The headline this morning: President-elect Donald Trump. And that brings us to this morning's KOMO Pulse poll. As you grab your cell phone, open up the camera and point it right there at that QR code on the right. We're asking, how do you feel about the 2024 presidential vote? Hundreds of votes already coming in this morning. About 57% of our responders saying not surprised. 25% at the bottom saying they're shocked at some of the results that we're seeing this morning. 18% saying somewhat surprised. Let us know how you're feeling as you wake up this morning and grab your cell phone. Add your vote by pointing it right at that QR code on the right-hand side of your screen. That will create that link to take you directly to our poll. It is posted right now at KOMOnews.com. Another update in about 30 minutes.
In the race for Washington State Governor, State Attorney General, and Democrat Bob Ferguson claimed victory over Republican opponent Dave Reichert. The Associated Press called the race late last night, with Ferguson holding a 12-point lead after 62% of the ballots were counted.
There is nobody running for statewide office this year anywhere in the United States who is more prepared to defend your freedoms against that administration than I am.
You know me from my other campaigns. We are not going to concede this race until the last vote is counted.
Reichert did admit the numbers across the state do not look good, especially in King County, where the former sheriff was outgained nearly 3-1 by Ferguson.